the skill set of Justin Fields priority number one as the Bears enter this offseason. As Michelle said, they don't have a first-round pick in the draft this year, but they do have a little over $27 million in cap space. They'll take that, 11th most in the league. They do have a few key free agents as well, most notably receiver Allen Robinson, Matt.
Yeah, especially if you want the quarterback to develop. As we welcome back Marcus Spears, Booger McFarland here to join the conversation. Justin Fields' development, without question, priority number one for Matt Eberflus and their new GM. So starting with Booger, scheme-wise, what's the most important area this regime needs to address to help develop Justin Fields in year two?
Well, there's a lot to improve on. Obviously, you want to use Justin Fields' athleticism and accentuate what he does well, which is movement, throwing the run. He's a physical kid, 6'3", 230 pounds. He ran 4.3, 4.4 at his pro day. So you want to use that. But therein lies kind of the catch-22, Matt, because in order to win in this league, I think we saw in the postseason with Josh Allen and Mahomes and Matthew Stafford, you're going to have to throw from the pocket. So they got to continue to develop him from the pocket, and you don't want to lean too much on that uber athleticism, but at the same time, you got to allow the kid to have some success. But in the end, when it's all said and done, Justin Fields has to continue to progress from the pocket. And if he does, now you have one of the more dynamic dual-threat quarterbacks that this game has seen in a long time.
There you go. Let him be him, but let him grow as an NFL quarterback. Marcus, switching to you, let's talk personnel-wise. Where should Chicago look to invest the resources this offseason to help develop Fields?
Yeah, Matt B, listen, the offensive line is always an understood you, but the wide receiver spot is my concern as well to build synergy. Listen, we saw Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase build that rapport. We talk about Aaron Rodgers and Devontae Adams. Justin Fields needs his guy. He needs a guy, and that may be Allen Robinson. They may get a deal done with Allen Robinson, but if you don't have a number one receiver in this league, as just like Boog just said, you pretty much don't have a shot at winning football games or enough to make a big enough impact to try to make a playoff run. So I think that's the area not only of need, but an area of urgency. Because if Allen Robinson leaves this team, they have no number one wide receiver. And I know protection. I know Brian Poles talked about you want to get the run game to hit explosive plays. But if you throwing that thing to a little guy that nobody knows, you ain't going to hit no explosive plays anyway. You better go out and find your number one wide receiver as well.
He needs a Binky. He needs a Cooper Kupp to win them the Super Bowl with the trust of the quarterbacks. That's what he needs going forward. Spears, I want to stay with you.
If he's throwing to Matt Berry.
I'll be his Binky for whatever that takes. My body gets broken in half. Hey,
they lose in every game, bud.
Spears, you spent some time with Matt Eberflus. He was the linebackers coach with the Cowboys during your final two seasons. We're scheduled to have him join us in just a bit. What makes Eberflus a good fit in your mind to lead the Bears?
Yeah, Matt B, I haven't been with him for a while, obviously, but I know the two traits that I remember about Matt was a great communicator and a lot of juice. And what I mean by juice is an enthusiastic mentality when he comes into the building. He was the linebackers coach when I was with the Cowboys, but he was a phenomenal guy, too, a guy that you can go up and speak to, approachable. I think that's big. To be a head coach, to be a leader of men, you got to have the type of rapport where a guy feels comfortable enough to have a man conversation with you and not feel like it's going to go anywhere else. And I get that vibe from Eberflus. That's the vibe that I got from him when I was playing with the Cowboys. You know, we had close connection as a defensive line with the linebackers. A lot of coaching, a lot of communication was involved. He was involved in that as far as getting us right in blitz packages and things like that that he wanted to do with the linebackers. He's a phenomenal communicator, but he's going to come to work every day with the type of energy that you want to see from your head coach as far as trying to win games, but also to get that message. And it's not fluff. Boog can relate to this. A lot of guys rah-rah, scream, and don't have the substance behind it. He's a phenomenal coach as well, but I think his energy and his ability to communicate is going to resonate with this Chicago Bears roster.
And you know, Boog, he's a defensive guy. We know that. That's his trade, and he inherits a really, really good unit, ranked 6th in the NFL in total defense last season. So knowing that your head coach is a defensive coordinator and a former linebackers coach, what can they do to focus on taking this unit to the elite level to really help the quarterback if you've got a brilliant defense?
Well, I think they're going to turn the football over at a more alarming rate. This Chicago Bears secondary last year allowed 31 touchdowns, only 8 picks. That's near the bottom of the league as far as TD to interception ratio by your defense. And if you go back to when he was in Indianapolis, they turned the Tampa 2 in the scheme, and he's revolutionized that scheme. And schematically, they're going to have a lot of eyes on the football. And when that ball is tipped, just go back and watch Darius Leonard, watch Kenny Moore, watch those guys. When the ball is in the air, he's going to have those guys trained to go get the football. So that secondary and that defense will be a lot better. And let me echo what Marcus Spears says, because I've spent some time with Matt Eberflus more recently. He invited me up to speak to his defense in Indianapolis. And what I can tell you is, from a substance standpoint, it's all there. He was kind of cut out of the same cloth as like a Tony Dungy, and they live by a creed. No excuses, no explanations. They're going to tell you exactly what they want. They're going to tell you what they expect, and they're going to allow you as a man to go out and do your job. And as an NFL player, Spears, you know this. Tell me my job. Give me my job description. Treat me with respect. Let's go have some fun, and let's play ball. That's what Matt Eberflus does.
Yes,
so a lot of people question the hire because in Chicago, everyone talked about the quarterback. Let me remind you, the greatest coach in professional football is a defensive guy in Bill Belichick. The greatest coach in college football is a defensive guy, Nick Saban.
Bingo.
Matt Eberflus will be just fine. He will have a great rapport with his players, as Spears said, and they will have so much respect for him, it won't be funny. It'll be like the respect that I have for Marcus Spears when I see him dancing, or the respect that I have for you, Matty, when I see you on the golf course.
There you go. We are just one
Hey,
big.
Boog, to your point, Matt, to Boog's point, last time we saw the Chicago Bears in the Super Bowl, who was their coach?
It's a great question. Hang on. I'm going through. Lovie Smith was their head coach.
And what was his expertise?
Exactly.
You had Brian Urlacher. You had Mike Brown. You had it. And I think was it
You gotta be able to coach him.
Was it Rex
I love it,
Grossman or
Boog. I love
Jim
that you
Miller,
brought up
the
the
quarterback?
defensive guy.
Yeah.
Yes, Rex Grossman was the quarterback, and I sacked Rex Grossman in that Super Bowl also. I gave him a wiggle.
Oh, I'm sure he did.
Oh, yes, he did.
All right, you guys.
Get him, Boog.
My TV
Get him, Boog.
binkies.
Send me one of them rings so I can stunt.
Later.
Oh, boy. Coming up on SportsCenter, we got more on the Bears as their new head coach joins the show. How Jerry Jones has impacted Matt Eberflus. And the Harden and Embiid experiment appears to be a really good fit. But who has to step up alongside those two superstars to make it work in Philadelphia?